Welcome back. You want to get the news at your fingertips, and it's Channels TV you should be staying with. Just remember that all our top stories can be viewed on our website. It's channelstv.com. And for this discussion, you can follow us on Twitter with channels_sports and on Facebook with channels-sports. We're about to talk about the issue that the IAAF and WADA don't want to talk about. We're about to talk about it now, and it's doping in athletics. We've told you can be part of this discussion on Facebook. Yeah, so keep those comments, questions, and suggestions coming on Facebook. We're asking, who is to blame, athletes or administrators?
I think it's kind of confusing, and there's some, you just say it's sensational, because IAAF is saying that, look, WADA is saying they're not aware, but this was actually a report that was ongoing 4 years ago. Although it was inconclusive, they're definitely aware of it. But I think for them to actually have a smooth run of having athletes not having abnormal blood samples returns and all that, all they need to do, just educate them. Like, because it's like every year they bring out new vitamins they shouldn't take, new drugs and all that. So it's like it's evolving over the years. And sometimes the athletes don't even know the kind of food they eat. And when they do that and they get tested, I'm like, okay, abnormal blood sample. That's it.
So much medical terms involved in this one, and that's why we looked around and said, guys, we can't talk about this one. We got out there and we got a medical practitioner, Dr. Oladipo Omolabi, joins us in the studio now. Talk about this. Doctor, good to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
It's so much talk. Doping has been in sports for some time now, and then you start wondering, even a big athlete, Marion Jones, recently was even Lance Armstrong, it was Tyson Gay, and then even in Nigeria there was Justin Gatlin, Chikamala, Damola Shayomi. So the main issue at hand is this athlete biological passport. That's where it starts from. What does that mean?
Well, what that basically means is that the athletes have their data collected from them before any tournament. What this means is that blood data is collected and is stored somewhere. So their parameters are already viewed before any competition. So you have the levels of whatever drug they are probably taking before, how their oxygen intake is, whatever levels, anything they need to know about them originally. So by the time they now have a proper competition, they are now being retested. And these parameters are now checked against the biological passports they have, which is supposed to identify you as a person. So if there are any changes, it shows most likely the person has taken something.
That's when the abnormal blood sample comes in.
That's where it gets, that's where it gets confusing, guys. Because in 2012, I was at London Olympics. I got a silver in the men's 200 meters. And then this World Championship in Beijing, you win gold. And then they go back to that old biological passport because they think that your performance has been enhanced.
Well, what they do most times with those artists, with those athletes most times, is that even with the original tests that they collect from them, they keep them over time. Because sometimes, like you were mentioning earlier, newer drugs come in. We look at it from the point of vitamins. Can they take vitamins? Can they take other things? But we should also look at it from the point that this is a multi-billion-dollar business. And people are actively trying to find other performance enhancers. And over time, we have to find other means to detect them. So if you collected silver, like your illustration was some years back, and it's now gold, they look at the projection, they look at statistics, thinking, okay, this is where they're expected to go.
A couple of them on the screen right now.
So they look at where you're supposed to go from, and on basis of your performance, where you're supposed to be by this time. But if you have improved more than expected, there's a need to check against your biological passport to see, okay, is there a chance that something has been used?
This urine EPO test, that's the one that worries Kenya at the moment. What's that about?
Okay, EPO in itself, is an abbreviation for an hormone called erythropoietin. Now, erythropoietin is produced normally in the body, fortunately. It's produced by the kidneys. And what it does is that it stimulates red blood cells. If we all know about red blood cells, red blood cells help you with the carriage of oxygen and supply the oxygen around the body. Now, what these athletes do is that with the Kenyans, for example, the Kenyans live in high altitude, which means that their body compensates for, they have reduced oxygen. So their body compensates for it by producing this erythropoietin, produces more. So by the time they come to a lower altitude, they have more erythropoietin, which means that more oxygen comes to them. They have more red blood cells to carry this oxygen to other parts of the body. muscle fatigue comes from a lack of oxygen. They have more oxygen to supply their muscle, which gives them more endurance.
Okay, that's why they perform better.
That's why they perform better.
So, was that the reason why? Because if you check the reports that we had from the leaked blood samples and all that, they said but most of the Kenyan athletes are guilty of it. Is that the reason?
I think it's part of the reason. But if you look at it, if you look at past 10 years, you see, if you watch all these long distance races,
of course,
the Kenyans are far ahead. But look at it now, it's a lot closer. Okay. And maybe they're also sensing other countries are getting up on them with these substances. It's a really difficult game.
So why can't they look at other countries who are getting, because it's like for Kenyans now, right now, because of their body makeup and also where they're, their country, so it's more like advantageous to them because whenever they leave their country and go to other countries to compete, they have more oxygen. So it's like, so why was the focus actually on them? Why not on other athletes who are trying to catch up with them?
Kenyans have always been the gold standard with long distance races. They're the ones to test. They're the ones everybody wants to beat. And if you can't beat them fair and square, discredit them. That's the best way to do it.
Okay, that's so what they're actually trying to do. Because the World Championship right now is starting this month, and this is more like, I mean, they're really upset about it. Some of the athletes actually spoke. You heard what he's saying. Why focus on Kenya? If you have some athletes who have done this, why not look at them and bring them out instead of just actually discrediting all the athletes, like you mentioned?
Well, the issue of the current doping scandal is not just about, it was Kenya and Russia that was mentioned mostly. Yeah. And I think since the Baku scandal in 2003, everybody had to evolve. Okay. Before now, it was finding the perfect drug. It was finding the perfect drug that would make you faster, that would make you endure more. But now it is trying to use biological substances, which the body naturally produce to help you become better. So if I find a way to increase my erythropoietin level, then I become better. Because if you test me, erythropoietin is supposed to be normal. It becomes what it is. So these athletes go to the point of bleeding themselves. That's what they do. That's how they do this. Okay. They bleed themselves before they give their biological passport. They give the biological passport is taken normally. Okay. Then they use these drugs. It improves their red blood cells off season. Yeah. They are not tested off season. They bleed themselves. Before a competition, the parameters are taken again. The parameters taken from them are normal this time. Okay. At the competition itself, they infuse back the blood they've stored. The red cells go up. Okay. Immediately after, they bleed themselves again.
That's smartness.
Let's look at ways we can. Let's look at ways we can educate athletes, because I'm not going to mention it, but I've spoken to some athletes and it'd be like, for instance, substance involved in making Tylenol is probably not the same for paracetamol. Yeah. And then this guy goes for a championship, did his trials the day before, and in the morning, WADA says, hey, bring your urine samples, and then what he took that is in paracetamol, some of the substances that week has just been released by WADA as not acceptable. No, yeah. What should athletes do in these cases to just ensure they stay clean?
Well, it's a bit of a dilemma for them, really. But I think those drugs are not actually released a day before. I don't think that is actually true. They give them time, because they too have to do researches on them to be sure, okay, at this specific dose. It's not that all these drugs are just banned. There are specific ranges at which you feel, okay, now you've doped. Because they can expect them not to use analgesia, drugs for pain, if they need drugs for pain. But at some certain dose, it becomes an enhanced substance. So these athletes know these doses. This is what they are trying to beat. So it's a game of cat and mouse, really. I read somewhere about something called a prisoner's dilemma for athletes. We all want to win. Unfortunately, they only reward those who are the best at this game. If I dope, and I know you might dope, who gets the benefit? Everybody wants to dope to be sure, okay, I win first. And if the World Doping Body feels that they don't get everybody all the time, there's a chance I might get away with it. So why don't I get away with it and get the endorsements and get paid?
I tell you, it's really, really a very broad topic, a broad issue, and we can't exhaust everything in one day. But of course, I'm sure we've not heard the last of all of it, I tell you. So as time goes on, we'll definitely be keeping our tabs on the situation as it evolves. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Omalabi, for coming this morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
We appreciate your time. Thank you.
So, guys, so much. Hopefully, we'll get some messages to readers regards these doping allegations. IWF, Cecilia, they've come out to deny all of these allegations reported in the media, that they collect the blood samples, they store them, they check and recheck. But now it seems they have a problem with WADA too, because the World Anti-Doping Agency, they're claiming that they're not even aware of some of these problems.
I think the issue is from the fact that they said when some of the results came out earlier, that like how many years ago, they said it was inconclusive. Yeah. So I think they really did not look at it from the perspective. They're looking at it from the perspective that this might just be some fresh allegations, but they're actually not fresh allegations. It's been there since, talked about from 2001, 2009, and also some from many years ago. I know that these samples have been collected, and WADA were actually aware of it. And of course, for IWF, they said they've done everything possible. Usually, whenever WADA wants to go into investigations and all, they are the ones who supply the information. They are the ones who actually help them, with the whole investigations and all that. So why say you're not aware of this? I think that's where the controversy actually came.